So we're going to take a look at problem 3 now, and in problem 3 what we're doing here is we're asking the user for how many years an employee has been with a company, years of employment, and then what the program does is it prints out how many weeks of vacation that employee gets. So for example, if an employee has been with a company 0, 1, or 2 years, then he gets 2 weeks of vacation. If he's been with a company 3, 4, or 5 years, then he gets 4 weeks of vacation, and so on. So let's get a Python editor. And what I'm going to do here, instead of just giving you the code, I'm going to explain the thought process, how you think when you're actually writing a program. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get information from the user. We need to know the years of employment. So that is the input statement, and we're just going to prompt the user, please enter years of employment. We put a colon in there, and then we do a few spaces. Now, that message is going to appear on the screen, okay, and we're going to get that data from the user, and we have to send that data somewhere. We're going to send it to a variable called years. And it's important to have meaningful variable names. So on the final exam, you will be marked on having the correct names for your variables. So for example, if it is the age of a student, that variable should be age. If it's the weight of an animal, that variable should be weight. So make sure that you use the correct variable name on your final exam. Now, this part is very important. It's a little bit tricky, but it's very important to understand. The input function is inputting text or string data type. Now, you cannot do math on text. You do math on numbers, on integers. So even though we're going to be inputting it, okay, from the user, we can't tell if the person's been working 3 years or 4 years, because that's a string. So the first thing we're going to do here is we have to convert it. And we're going to convert it by enclosing it in brackets and using the int function. Okay? And make sure your brackets line up. This is one of the things I do when I'm putting one function inside of another. Here's the input function, and it's been nested within the input of the integer function. And now I'm going to count the brackets. I see the inner brackets and I see the outer brackets. So 2 open brackets on the left, 2 closed brackets on the right. They need to match up. So if you see 2 brackets on the left, but you see 3 brackets on the right, they don't properly match up. So I always take a minute to make sure that my brackets match up. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to do a test here. Okay, years of employment. So let's say the person's been working 2 years or less, they get 2 weeks of vacation. So let's go ahead and do a test on years, and I'm going to put in a blank line there just to make it a little bit easier to read. We do that with the if statement. So if the years is less than or equal to, now it's not just less than 2 years, because less than 2 years means 0 years or 1 year or maybe a negative number, and that's not what we want. If you look carefully here, it's 0, 1, or 2 years. So we have to properly interpret this as less than or equal to. Okay, so if the person has been working, if years of employment is less than or equal to 2 years, then we're going to do something. And that's how you do then in Python. If you programmed with other languages, you'll notice the then statement is missing here. All we do is we put a colon in there instead, and then we press enter. So if years of employment is less than or equal to 2, what we're going to do then is we are going to set the vacation, and the vacation will be a simple statement. The vacation is you are entitled to 2 weeks vacation. So you have 2 weeks. Let me just write the number 2 weeks of vacation. Okay, so it's a variable that will temporarily hold the weeks of vacation. Now you might think here you can just do a print directly from here, but it's better to set a variable, and the reason why it's better to set a variable is later on we might build on this code and do some other calculation with weeks of vacation. So that's why I'm using a variable and not printing it straight out from within the if statement. But of course, you can print it out. I'm going to press enter, and now we're interested in 3, 4, or 5 years. Now, this is what I want to draw your attention to. Do you see that vertical line there? Okay. Right now, if you look at the cursor where it's flashing, it's right under the V, and that's the wrong place. So I'm going to hit the back tab, so I'm right under the if. So we're going to put in the else if. So else if years is between 3 to 5, so it's greater than or equal to 3 years. So we're going to do 3, 4, 5 years. And the vacation, okay, is years is less than or equal to 5. Okay, so that is going to include year 3, year 4, and year 5 inclusive. I press enter, and then we're going to set the vacation likewise. According to the table, it looks like the person is entitled to 4 weeks vacation. So you have 4 weeks of vacation. Now, a good programmer does not program a lot, he programs very little. Okay, so for the remainder here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste existing code and just change it. So we're interested in 6 to 10 years, and we get 6 weeks of vacation. So watch how I do this. I'm going to do a copy and paste here, so I don't type it out, because if I keep typing, there's a high probability that I'm going to make a mistake. And I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to show you something that can confuse people. I'm going to press Control V on my keyboard to paste it in, and right away there's a mistake. The else if has to be in line with the if and the other else if, and we can see the else if is not aligned with that vertical line. It's underneath the if. So I can press backspace here to make sure that it is properly in line, and vacation, of course, is indented. Okay, so if a vacation is like this, that's a mistake. Hit the tab key to indent it. There we go. So we've copied in the code, and now we're just going to modify it. So now it is 6 to 10 years inclusive. So we're going to include year 6 and year 10, and that's why we have greater than or equal to 6, less than or equal to 10 years. How much vacation do you get? You get 6 weeks of vacation. Let's look at the last part here, which is 11 or more years. You get 8 weeks of vacation. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to copy that first little bit there and put that in, because that's very close to what I want. Now notice again, see where my cursor is blinking? It's not in the right place. So I'm going to hit backspace to get it with the vertical line. I'm going to press Control V to get the code in there. And it's not an if statement, it is an else if statement. Okay, so here we're interested in the years being greater than or equal to 11. So let's go through this again. 2 years or less, 3, 4, or 5 years, 6 to 10 years inclusive, and now we're talking about years greater than or equal to 11. So let me just make a small correction here. And then how many weeks of vacation you get? Well, this guy is never in the office because he's getting 8 weeks of vacation. And there you go. So look it over, and in practice, I wouldn't even do that much. I would just do the if statement, test it out, make sure it works, and then I would go ahead and code the rest. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. Let's say we did not type all of this. So let me go ahead and do a copy, and I'm going to delete what I have here because I want to show you the thought process. Let's go ahead and print out the vacation. Okay, so I want to test this and make sure it works properly. Now, how do you test this? You test it on the boundaries. Test it on 0, 1, and 2 years, and then test it on 3 years. Okay, so I'm very interested in the boundaries, 2, 3. For this one, the boundaries are 2, 3, 5, and 6. So I want to make sure it's giving me the right result. So let's go ahead and run this and enter years of vacation. Okay, so it's kind of, I need to move my cursor over. There we go. So we'll say 0. Looks perfect. You have 2 weeks of vacation. Let's run it again. 1 year. You get 2 weeks of vacation. Run it again. 2. Now that's a boundary here. Okay. Did it work? Yes, it did work. Now on that boundary is 3 years. So let me enter 3 years and I should get no response. And boom, in fact, I even got an error message because the vacation variable had not been set. So this is working perfectly. Now, I can put the rest of the code in there. Let me just do Control V, okay, and I'm going to test it out with all the remaining years. So 3 to 5, 6 to 10, 11, and 11 or higher, and I'm going to verify that it works. So let me go ahead and do one more test. I'm going to test in this range somewhere between 6 to over 11. I want to convince myself that it's working. So we're going to run it again. So let's try a boundary here. 6 years. Works perfect. Let's run it again. Let's do 10 years. Okay, works perfect. Let's do 11 years. And with 11 years, we get the expected 8 weeks of vacation. That's how you debug a program and ensure that it works perfectly.